I hope everybody's well fed. Welcome back. We want to talk about something a little bit more abstract than the previous groups, and we wanted to share our project about explainability with graphs. So why this is important? Maybe a little story helps. This is my good friend Tom. Unfortunately, Tom is sad because he is sick, and he got a new prescription from a doctor. And fortunately for Tom, he's already a patient in a hospital, which is kind of data-driven. So there's already an AI implemented, which can predict how the new prescription will affect Tom. But there's a twist. The AI actually predicts severe side effects for Tom. So now what do we do? What does the doctor do? What does the patient do? Should he take the prescription or should he leave it out? Maybe it's really important for him to take it. That is exactly where explainability matters. We need to understand why models come to a conclusion, how it derives its prediction. And this is, so explainable AI in general just means that we try to make machine learning models and their predictions human understandable. This is very important so we can build trust into the predictions of our models, but it's also very important for compliance reasons. So we're living in Europe, maybe you have heard of the AI Act, and especially in healthcare, it will be more and more important to really understand how predictions are derived because it's impacting health and lives. But also for ethic reasons, right? Maybe Tom will be the target of discriminating AI for some reason because often models have quite a high bias. So for that exact reason, we try to use graphs. First of all, because they perform very well. And secondly, because they are very nice to visualize. And with that, Johannes will talk a little bit about graphs.
Yes. So I think we already had graphs today. So it is nice to have them. And they just give us a good way to showcase data itself. And by nature, they are already adding value to explainability itself. So here you can see like our example basically built in a graph. You see that this is a bidirectional edge. It's called the relation. This is a one-directional edge. And this is basically what it's doing. I give you some background like basics on graphs, which I already mentioned, undirected and directed. You see it again. And now you can either classify the nodes or you can classify the edges, the links, relations. Another distinction that is made in graphs is homophilic versus heterophilic. We will hear about this later again in a bit more detail. So homophilic is just that similar nodes connect to other nodes. So you have like a social network, for instance, where friends with similar interests connect to each other. Or you have an heterophilic graph where dissimilar nodes connect, and it could be a buyer-seller relationship or it could be a knowledge graph. This is also a good example. And now Shan will take over.
As we have learned about homophilic graph and how to, we can also visualize it. Since they are homophilic, the nodes are similar, they are connected better with the graph. And the message passing between the nodes are efficient with even a shallow model. So here I have plotted that before the training, the datasets they are from 7 classes with denoted by the colors. They are spread everywhere in the embedding space. After the training, they are clustered in the feature embedding space, meaning the message passing between the same class are efficient and also showing our model is performing really well. Of course, there will be over smoothing if for homophilic graph. And to further explain how the model prediction works for the graph, there actually exist several attempts. And one of the basic approach is the Jiang explainer. As you can see here, the basic mechanism of it is just to take a subgraph of the whole graph and the neighboring nodes that are from the similar classes in the homophilic graph, they are contributing the most to our target node prediction. Therefore, the mask are generated for the edges. The green ones are kept in the subgraph, and we have implemented with as shown here. So again, the color denotes the classes of the nodes, and the edges are thicker, meaning they are contributing more to the target node prediction. However, that's all what we know from this Jiang explainer, because it's still kind of black box optimization process, and there are several hyperparameters. I don't know how to optimize them, and also it maybe works better for homophilic graph only. That's why we have another approach.
Yeah, thank you very much. As you can see already, explainability is hard, right? And this is kind of the baseline we try to build upon and try to improve. Because if I have a look at this visualization, it's very hard for me to tell, okay, this seems to be the target node, which we seem to want to predict. But still, what is telling us the rest? It's very hard, right? There are edges which are a little bit thicker, which seem to play a bigger role, and the other ones which are thinner, which don't play that big of a role. So in our case, we implemented a new model. Well, not that new, but it's a different approach, which uses a different mechanism you have maybe heard of, attention. So I think attention is, everybody kind of knows what attention is. There was a very famous Google paper a couple of years ago, which is called Attention is All You Need. And it's pretty much the same thing we use in ChatGPT or generally in transformers. And let's have a look what our model outputs. So let's bear with me and let's just consider on the right part, for example. This is more or less the same prediction we have just seen. But in this case, our model clearly states which other nodes in the subgraph contributed to our target prediction. So let's consider again, this is Tom. Tom has predicted side effects. All the other nodes are other patients which also have side effects. And in this particular example, the model relied heavily on this specific node here. I will make it a little bit more technical because these are actually not different graphs. It's the same graph, just on a different layer of our model. We implemented a 3-layer model. On the left, you see the first layer, where the model only sees the very vicinity of the target node. Then we have the second layer, where the model sees a 2-hop vicinity of the target node. So it reaches everything over 2 edges, basically. And this is the amazing 3rd layer vicinity. So this already tells us something. This is all the information our model processed for its prediction. It didn't take the whole graph. It didn't take the whole database. That's all it got. That's already good to know. So now consider, Tom is our target node here, and all the orange ones are male patients. And let's consider that the purple ones are female, and the blue ones are diverse. Now, if the model mainly if the model mainly relies on the prediction, if the model mainly relies on those nodes which are bigger here for the prediction, then we can have a look at those nodes specifically. If all of those nodes, for example, are male and share common attributes together with Tom, then the prediction that he will have severe side effects maybe is reasonable. Maybe we shouldn't prescribe the medication. If we flip it and we say, okay, all the orange ones are female or have an attribute that Tom doesn't share, then maybe it is reasonable to try the prediction because the model might be wrong. I briefly want to reiterate over 2 types of graphs with you. Let's consider this graph. I want to predict the color of this node. I want you to take a guess which color this would be. Green. Very good prediction. That is correct. And how did you know that? Well, he only looked in the very close vicinity, right? It was enough information together to get the prediction right. That's another kind of graph. How about this one? Again, green? No, it's orange. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually blue in this case. But that doesn't matter that much. What matters is that it's not enough to look in the close vicinity, but you also have to count on neighbors which are way farther away to make the prediction right. And the models we have talked about so far, the attention models, are very good on the left side of graphs. No? Okay. Homophilic and heterophilic. So this is the kind of graphs we encounter in the wild. We can make some examples maybe. Homophilic could be Facebook, where friends which share very similar attributes connect. And the heterophilic dataset could be also maybe a social network, maybe like LinkedIn, where employers and employees connect, right? But they don't share many attributes. Still, the connection is there. So we considered another model, which is very strong on the heterophilic environment. And the new model, which I will present in a second, can do stuff like this. It can change the graph topology. You could imagine it as kind of a moody model, right? Because what it can do is actually restrict communication and information flow between the nodes. And it can do that at every layer, actually. So just to mention it briefly, the architecture I'm talking about is the so-called cooperative graph neural network. It's very recent in 2024. We re-implemented it and tried to improve it. Unfortunately, we didn't improve it, but we have an idea how to. Nevertheless, I want to quickly show you and go into details here. Why? Explainability matters not only for people like Tom and for the doctor, but also like for technical supervisors, people who are actually interested into the architecture and how it exactly works. The same as regulatory bodies, right? Now with the AI Act, it's necessary to explain in very detail how a model drives a prediction, which is hard. So we want to show the new model, which is called the co-GNN in the upper corner. And how does it roughly work? So this is the original graph where we try to drive a prediction on, and the red one is our target node. Again, we have a 3-layer model. In the first layer, it now has transformed this undirected graph into a directed one. Maybe it's a little bit hard to say, but now the edges have directions. Here you have a bidirectional edge. Let me see if I find one. Yeah, here. So this one is only sending messages out. Before, message passing or information flow was going in both directions. And the deeper we go, the less edges appear. The model learned or decided that information flow is not necessary in later steps, which makes a lot of sense because what we're seeing here is a homophilic data set where it's not necessary to look a lot around the neighborhood, but it's enough if you only look at the neighbors which are very close. So in summary, the key takeaways I want you to take home from today's presentation are first, graphs are very powerful and they come with very powerful models. Explainability is very different for different stakeholders and explainability is very difficult, but it is necessary. Thank you very much for your attention.